The questions would be definitely the most interactive and interesting thing, because I thought I make a kind of a visioning workshop, but it was decided to make a frontal presentation which would also make sense according to several backgrounds that I have to speak about. So if we only deal with actuality and problem solving and things which are relevant today and now, we forget a little bit about the orientation, and to understand where all the things are going in these disruptive times with digital transformation and artificial intelligence, we have to have some mindsets or some orientation to understand what is it all about, what is our civilization about, and what is the sense of enabling human in the field of education, which is definitely not only learning about some tools to use, which is more or less technical, and if artificial intelligence will do this work for us, so what is the human potential in this case, and what will be the future in very different fields, not only work and civilizational aspects, but definitely the enabling infrastructure of education. So everything I heard about the concrete actuality problem solving here was connected with interoperability of different systems, enabling of micro crediting for educational levels achieved by a certain person, and it goes in the direction of individualization and enabling of human potentiality. So my academic initiative has the aim of enabling human-centered civilization design, because there are a lot of alternatives, but human-centered is the only thing which definitely would make sense for a strategic, intelligent future. And the strategic intelligence is what you normally call a philosophy, but philosophy of a certain person is just a certain mindset or a certain view. What is in all the aspects of civilization, like the knowledge that we all have from this philosophy, is strategic intelligence. It enables all of us and all the topics of the education to see in the future, to make the next step, to enable things that we probably only see in our potential, but they were not examples in the history and whatever. So, I call it EduSEAL. It's just the orientation. It could be something like Europass. That was an interesting presentation from the European Union in this direction. The names could be different, but EduSEAL is an overage orientation for the global possibility of strategic visioning on data-based and human-centered value creation in higher education. So you see all these names, thinkers and philosophers in the history of human trying to understand the world, who was looking for basic ethical concept for everything which is dealing with human life and human orientation. And all of these thinkers, Spinoza, Kant, Hegel, but also Ernst von Glasersfeld as a Socrates of kybernetic thinking, Maturana, all of them thought about potentiality as a basic concept. So what is potentiality? Potentiality is a basic part of life, of self-regulation. It means if you put a seed in the earth and that will be a plant, it's a realizing of certain potentiality of a seed, and the plant is realized potentiality. So the same power is also in all the technical instruments which are dealing with enabling of something which was in one state and come to the other state, out of a certain energy that is in this symbol right under. So you have potentiality in self-regulation of life, you have potentiality in technical things. What is important for our human society, human civilization, is a human potentiality, because we are the only person for whom it, not person, but the only kind of intelligence that is in the center of our world. So our civilization is a complexity-reduced world of survival, more or less. And this world of survival, in this analog actuality that we had before the so-called digitalization, we had the self-regulation of our body, and we don't regulate it through our attention and through our brain, because the heart is beating itself. But we have to control the socio-technical infrastructure out of our body, because it's something that we produced in the last 1,000 years of human history, or even more. And this socio-technical infrastructure is something that enables us a stable actuality. So there was an analog actuality, and there will be human potentiality, and between we have something that I call augmented actuality. But we come back a little. So the potential of human communication, for example, in the potentiality of the future is intersubjectivity. What is intersubjectivity? It's like telepathy. So it's something that connects all the people on the basics. So we are all the same evolutionary result with the same brain structure, and in cybernetics you call it structural coupling. So it's something that gives us a common possibility to communicate, but we communicate with languages, and languages has a certain own structure. So this structure of languages gives us a lot of rules, but they are not the rules of our potentiality. This is the rules of the system of languages. It has a certain own logic. So this analog actuality is very complexity reduced. We have communication instead of potential intersubjectivity. We have self-regulation of the body, but not the self-regulation of socio-technical infrastructure, which is also important. So that's why the three stages of civilization, like analog actuality, now augmented actuality, which is the tendency of digitalization, and human potentiality, how it should be according to the human-centered design. So digital transformation in these categories has two relevant parameters. It is potentiality enabling infrastructure, where we have actuality shift towards potentiality. Yeah, and the other aspect is equalizing mediality redundancies, preventing distortions. So what is distortion? If you produce, one team produces one thing on the same problem solving, and the other team produces the other result. So sometimes, if it's in different countries or whatever, the two results try to cancel each other. It's concurrence. It's more or less normal, but all the concurrences that we have in our world are not only positive, but a lot of destructive and the worse and things like that. So the intelligence of digitalization or of this potentiality is preventing distortion. So not wasting resources on doing things that cancel each other. So human potential in this case is creative intelligence and strategic effectivity. So human intelligence is not using tools for technical things like efficiency, just to do things right. Human potential is doing right things, and doing right things is strategic effectivity. Yeah, so doing things that will be in future, not producing redundancies that cancel each other. On the other way, creative intelligence, creativity is more than just artistic things. It's improvisation, it's ability to deal with things that there were no before, or no way of solving these problems. Creativity is also inspiration. It's definitely very important, because inspired, said, if you have sometimes inspiration, you know what I mean. You can solve problems out of the moment without any technological and whatever things. So this is what is human potentiality, and it's, according to all the research in interdisciplinary fields, the direction that we have now. But most things that we have to do actually is just using tools and to perform kind of efficiency, which is more or less a technical issue. So AI potential of this kind of intelligence that we will have in the future, which are not the concrete AI tools like now, but consolidated all AI tools together, because AIs don't communicate like human subjects with language. They communicate with data, and data communication is quite other thing, because humans don't transfer information directly. They're not connected with some direct connection. They are using a system of language and so on. So AI potential is augmented intelligence, which is enabling a tactical efficiency, so doing things right. And the human role is creative steering, strategic leadership, and ethical control, because everything that enable this intersubjectivity of humans with each other is based on some rules which are more or less ethical. It's not the rules of laws, because all the rules of laws are based on ethical things. So we are searching for ability for ethical control of socio-technical infrastructure that is self-regulating. So the cybernetics is a science of control, and it has two interesting aspects. So there is an ethical perspective, which is also potentiality enabling perspective. It says act always to increase the number of choices. It's an ethical imperative of Ernst von Glasersfeld, which is the Socrates of cybernetic thinking, and one of the persons who defined this mindset of cybernetics with all the parameters which are ethical, aesthetical, and so on. And the aesthetical vision is, if you want to see, learn to act. It's imperatives that shows the possibility of viability, so it's making a thing viable. So we have the potentiality and viability. This is two parts of the civilization according to cybernetic view in reduced form. Now we can compare this actuality thinking that we have now. It's about reduced complexity, because all concepts we used are not the real complexity, because we don't know it. It's always open, but we use always some reduced things that we call, and they have names, they have functions, but they are not the part of the higher complexity world. So redundant things, results that cancel each other, focus on efficiency, doing right things, doing things right, and high compared to potentiality thinking, which is dealing not with reduced but with high complexity, with relevant things which are scalable, resilient, and sustainable, and the focus of effectivity, doing right things. Actuality thinking, potentiality thinking, and in application of education, we have the analog understanding of learning for using tools, analog mindset of education, which is less meaning, more control, legally justified, extrinsic motivated, efficient by doing things right, tactically intelligent, and rationality, which is logos in the categories of old Greek philosophers. And the mindset of Potentiality in education is learning for creating, less control, more meaning, ethically justified, intrinsic inspiration, effective by doing right things, strategically intelligent, and inspirational, which has a Greek word for sophos. So we have logy, all the sciences that are dealing with logical, reduced complexity things, and sophos like philosophy and this kind of thinking, which is dealing with inspirational kind of understanding things. So sophos is a potential of education for human-centered civilization design. So meaning of education in this case is emancipation from logos to sophos, enabling individual orientation, cultivation of creativity, empathy, and systemic cybernetic mindset. So my definition of higher education in the future, according to these parameters that I told about, is the potential-driven enabling infrastructure for emancipatory orientation knowledge along human self-realization. Yeah, so just try to read it once again. It sounds a little bit implicit, but it's not so difficult. We have the same parameters that we spoke about. It's potential-driven, because it is the only thing that makes sense. All the potentials in the actuality will be the part of what we call future, but future is not linear. We can have different futures, but it will be definitely one future according to the all actual potential that can be realized. And the most important potential is the human potential. So potential-driven enabling infrastructure, everything we heard here in the 3 days, goes in the direction that education is not just a concept of a certain school, university, or whatever. It's an infrastructure with enabled human, whatever, orientation, knowledge, self-realization. But self-realization is the result, because in human-centered society, you have only human potential, which is in Maslow or pyramid at the highest level of self-realization or self-transcendence. And we need orientation knowledge, so not the knowledge of using tools, but the knowledge of how we can deal with the higher complexity world. And it's relevant. So in the economic perspectives, because economy is something that is a motor of everything we do for realizing certain potentials that can work in the future. This economic setting of civilization is based on value creation, and value creation in analog society is the other than in digital society. So digitalized, so this augmented actuality is driven by the potential of digital transformation, which is connecting everything, bringing to certain standards, enabling complexity and potential-oriented development and things like that. And the economic parameters of this are flexibility, for example, orientation, individualization, and integration. All the new services which are based on information, if information is the part of a service that was in analog society, like having a car for being mobile, and using different mobility concepts with information. Yeah, like driving different transport, like a scooter, and renting a car and whatever to come from A to B. So it's mobility, and mobility is more than just possessing a car and having control on this thing, which is very control of sticky. So flexibility, enabling of orientation, individualization, and integration is the aspect of all the services that are dealing with information and upgrading analog economy to the digital economy. So in this case, application of education, this FIO principle of aided value creation, how I call it, will bring us to a concept that is also comparable with the future of work. Because in the actuality, which is more or less analog, even if it's digitalizing, it's still analog, we have people apply to companies, monetary motivation, external supervisor, controlled location. Yeah, because the chef always says you, where have you to be now to work, and you cannot do it from anywhere and everywhere. So potentiality would be companies applied to people. Think about, it's probably utopical for you, but I think it's the only possible way. Inspirational motivation. So inspired not by just monetary, external, but intrinsically from inspiration. Systemic quality proof. So the system, not a chief or certain other person, proves the quality of your results because he cannot know them. It's an intrinsic thing. You have only the way to understand, but you cannot understand in a certain situation, so you need some kind of consulting role. And this consulting role is emergence of the data of other humans and your data by the system. So it sounds a little bit difficult, but try to think along. Systemic quality proof and self-controlled location, which is more or less evident. So the university of the future, that is a product from this economic perspective, but also as enabling infrastructure. Has several parameters according to all the things that I said before. And it's like education on demand. Yeah, it's like pocket university, thousands of different concepts, but it goes this direction of individualization and flexibilization. Quality controlled, for example, real-time accreditation, but not the institutions, each person and his achievement in valid results that are relevant for some economic activity or other kind of activity which can be paid with first money or later with attention, with enabling and whatever. So it's everything needs quality control, and the level of flexibility that is the next level is to control not the institution but each person alone, which is not possible in analog civilization, but it is possible in digital with AI, if all the systems are interoperable and things like that. So it's mentor-inspired. That's why it's an answer of the question that was before in the presentation of the previous group. It was a good question from Potsdam University. Will the human person be a part of education of the future? Definitely, but in the role of not a teacher or instructor, in the role of mentor, which is dealing more with orientation to understand what is my next step in education. It's really very human, I think, and it's a certain aspect of maturity that you have in this kind of role of the mentor, and it's potential driven. So it's not driven by any extrinsic interests of values of other persons. It's your own intrinsic motivation according to your certain situation and potential development and self-realization in your concrete life. So my EduSEAL concept in this case should be kind of infrastructure. It can be gadget, a lot of possibilities. So the possibilities, concrete nature, are very, very different, but it should have, and it would definitely have at least this 6 aspects of real-time success monitoring. So not you come to the exam in a certain setting, and probably the art of questioning your potential is not proper and relevant with your possibilities, so it's more or less sticky. But real-time success monitoring, it's the possibility of this artificial intelligence part of this kind of educational infrastructure. Individual orientation, individual education consulting, which is also a part of the system. So in all the moments of your education, you would know that the next step would be not what is written in curriculum, but according to your progress and your relevance and changing actuality and different factors that you normally not address in an analog thing. Human orientation mentoring, it's about, do I really want this kind of job that I'm aiming with this kind of study, but probably I can change my mind according to certain changes in my situation or complexity, or I just thought that I have some other potentials that I didn't develop before, and whatever. It's very flexible. So this human orientation mentoring is mentoring of this kind of mature person with this experience in certain fields and whatever. Mindset, professional recognition, which is also important because this EduSEAL system is also a part of HR and personal management, because in the same system there are potential firms or startups or enterprises or initiatives or projects that could use your certain level of education and development for their interest, and they would invite you. Mindset community, so community that is connected all over the world to develop your educational mindset, which is more or less cybernetic and in my vision. And socio-technological ecosystem, which is this enabling infrastructure of everything, because it's universal service, it's integrated service, it's not only just education and you come with your CV to a certain personnel manager and he looks just at the document. It's all interconnected through this integrated enabling infrastructure. So in this case, it's everything I wanted to say. It's a little bit difficult, but if you have some certain own perspective or some thoughts, normally we would have time to discuss them, but I'm not sure that it's working now. But it would be great if you had a question. Thank you.